Hey everyone. So the purpose of this video is to help you with some basic manipulations on your calculators. So what I've done is I've put two slides together on calculations that you might see in either Physics 201 or Physics 201L, and I've got just two different calculations. The first one is focusing on how to do scientific notation, and the second one is focusing more on manipulation of basic numbers but with a more complicated denominator. The other thing I want to show you is how to switch calculators between different ways of presenting the information. So we're going to begin going through these two slides on my graphing calculator. It's a TI-83 Plus. It is old. I hope you can see it well enough here. So first things first, let's begin with what happens if I'm not in degrees and I want to be for a calculation. So the easiest way to check if you're in degrees is to hit the sign of 30. That should give you an answer of 1/2 or 0.5 as it did here. If you are in degrees, that is correct. If you are in radians, then it will not give you that. So if I go up to mode and switch this calculator into radians and hit the sign of 30 again, now I get an answer of about -1. So in order to change it on this calculator, as I said, you go up to mode and just flip it over, and that put me back into degrees where I get an answer of 0.5. Okay, the other thing is if I want to switch it between scientific notation and normal notation, that's also up under mode. You can see at the very top it says normal, sci, or engineering, so we can put it over there. That will cause your calculator to display in scientific notation. So now if I want to calculate this formula, which I have on the slide, this is actually the force formula for gravitational force. You will see it when we get to the uniform circular motion and gravitational forces section. I think that's round about chapter 7, so it's going to be over halfway through the semester. Okay. Now every calculator has some button designed for inputting scientific notation. If you look above log, you can see maybe here that there's a little 10 to the x. And so if I put in that button, so I hit second, I hit that, and 10 to the third, it should give me a value of 1 times 10 to the 3, which is what I would expect. But that button is not the button on this calculator designed to do scientific notation. Okay, what I want to do is look above the comma and see there's a little EE. That EE is. So now if I do, for example, 6.67 EE -11, that's the first number in our calculation, that number is interpreted by the calculator as being in scientific notation. And the capital E there means times 10 to the. And because it interprets it as that, then it's going to know when I hit the multiplication button to just multiply the next number. So I can just keep inputting. Okay, so there's our numerator. Now I need to divide by something in scientific notation. Because of that EE button, I should be able to do this. 151.26 EE to the 9th. And now I need to square that denominator. So I do this, and I get exactly the correct number of 3.46 times 10 to the 22nd. Okay? If I had done this the other way, using the times 10 to the button, watch what happens. So 7.92, I'm trying to essentially put back in the previous value. Nope, that's the wrong thing. There we go. 7.92 times 10 to the 44, that was the number we got for the numerator. So now watch what happens if I use that other button. So 1.51, oop, wrong thing. Let's try this. 151.26 times, oop, wrong thing again. See, it's habit. I will get there. It's not how I normally do this. To the 9th squared. I didn't get the correct number here. And the reason is because the calculator did not interpret 151.26 times 10 to the 9 as one number. It interpreted it as 151.26 and did the division with that, did not square it. And then the other piece would be multiplying the entire thing times 10 to the 9th squared. Okay? Moving on to the next slide is a percent difference calculation. Pulling my camera back up so you can again see the calculator. Absolute values, you just got to take them on your calculator or take them in your head. There is a button. Let's see, where is it? It's under mode. No, there is somewhere on the TI-83 an absolute value button, but guys, it's a minus sign. We can handle it. So 3.5 minus 3.6. Okay. Oh, I'm still in scientific notation. That's not so good for this, so let's switch it back out of that. Okay, so if I just put it in 3.5 minus 3.6 and then divide by 0.5 times 3.5 plus 3.6. That's not going to give me, oh, and multiply by 100. That does not give me the 2.82% difference that I have up on the computer screen. And the reason for that is because I have all sorts of parentheses errors. Okay, what's happening here is I'm taking 3.5 and then I'm subtracting 3.6 divided by 0.5 and multiplying that whole thing times the quantity 3.5 plus 3.6 times 100. Not what I want. What I really want is 3.5 minus 3.6 divided by the entire denominator, so I need two sets of parentheses. And there's my 2.82% answer. Okay. So that takes us through this calculator. I'm now going to go through the same two slides quickly with a bunch of other calculators, because not everybody has a graphing calculator and you shouldn't have to do a graphing calculator for this class. So here I have an old TI-30XA Solar. It's just a basic graphing calculator. So first things, if I want to do degrees to radians, it's this button up here. So DEG is degree, RAD is rad, radians, and then gradient. I've never used gradient. So that's how you make that change here. You can see there is an EE button again because it's a TI, and TIs generally have the EE button. So if we go back to, I gotta get back on the PowerPoint. If we go back to our first calculation, so how would I enter that here? Well, the first thing I would do is start entering, the key stuck. Okay, so notice there's no capital E here. There's just this exponent that appears at the end. So this number, as it's inputted, means 6.67 times 10 to the negative 11. It's how it's displayed on this calculator. So I'm now going to multiply that by 5.97 times 10 to the 24 and 1.99 times 10 to the 30th. Okay? So that brings us back to the 7.92 times 10 to the 44 numerator that we got with the other calculator. Now with this calculator, I'm going to be a little bit more careful with how I do to the denominator to make sure that I put the number into the denominator and then square the whole thing. And then to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the divide button, and then I'm going to put in parentheses, 151.26 times 10 to the 9th, and the parentheses, square it, and hit equals, and that gives me my number of 3.46 times 10 to the 22. I can move this calculator into and out of scientific notation as well. They're above the 4, 5, and 6 numbers. So above 4 it says flow, above 5 it says sci, and above 6 it says engineering. So if I want to put this calculator so it displays in scientific notation, I would hit second 5. Okay. And then moving on to the next, again, slide. So again, parentheses are key to getting this calculation correct. So I'm going to start with parentheses around my numerator, 3.5 minus 3.6. Okay. Now I'm going to divide by, I'm going to hit parenthesis 0.5 times a second parentheses 3.5 plus 3.6, close both sets of parentheses, hit equal, and then multiply by 100. And there's my 2.82%. Now I have a more modern TI 30 XS. It's very, very similar calculator to the one I just used. This one does not have the EE button. Okay. It's a TI, but it doesn't have it. What it does have is above, or right here, it has a times 10 to the n button, which I believe is the one we want. If I turn it on, I can use mode to move between degrees, radians, and gradients, but and then also to move between normal, scientific, and engineering code. Since I'm on this slide, let's do this one first this time. See, this one's going to be entered very similar to how I did the previous one. So parentheses around the numerator. Ooh, there's a 9 where there should be a 6. Divided by 0.5 times 2.82. Again, ignoring the minus sign because it's absolute valued. Okay, so there's that one. And now I can switch back to this one. Let's see if we can get it incorrect. So 6.67 times 10 should be 11. Then I think you have to hit the arrow button to move it back down out of the numerator, or out of the exponent, sorry. So times 5.97 if done correctly, there's our 7.92 times 10 to the 44. And I believe on this calculator we should be, oops, that should be divided, should be able to get away with no parentheses in the denominator. Shall we see? 10 to the 9th. Move it over and hit squared. I've lost the squared button. There we go. Ah, see where it put the parentheses? That's not what we want. So we have to fix that. So divide, we do need the parentheses. 151.26 times 10 to the 9th squared. Oops, not quite. You can tell this is not my normal calculator. Okay. Because I forgot to, okay, and then I forgot to arrow over to make it small, or put it down on the main line again. Now I can hit my square, which is over here, and hit enter. And there's the answer of 3.46 times 10 to the 22nd. Okay, so in case you hadn't guessed, the first two calculators are mine. And these other ones I borrowed from Dr. Cole, just so that you can see how it's done on a variety of different calculators. So here we're getting smaller and smaller. This is a Casio FX260 Solar. It has a mode button. Oh, hold on. It has somewhere, mode. It tells you up here how to move between degrees, radians, and gradients. So if I do mode 5, it moves me into radians. If I do mode 4, it puts me back in degrees. And I can do the same thing with 7 and 8 to move between normal and scientific notation. On this calculator, where is our magic button? Button. This one doesn't appear to have a magic button, which is Interesting. So we're going to have to do this the hard way, with lots and lots and lots of parentheses. Now, in the numerator, it's all multiplication. So we can enter this without having to worry about the parentheses as much. It's the denominator which is going to need the parentheses. Okay, so 6.67. Oops, apparently something is in there. Ah, I know what it is. Okay, 6.67 times -11, shift that. Okay, so there's our 6.67 times 10 to the -11. You can see that this has gotten very clunky to do with this calculator because we don't have that magic button. Ah, there's an EXP button hiding at the bottom. That is the button we want. So now we can just enter more easily. So 5.97 E24 times 1.99 E30 equals, there's our 7.92 times 10 to the 44. I knew there had to be a button. I just wasn't looking for EXP at the very bottom. Do you see it down there? Divide by, we are again going to need parentheses. So 151.26 and parentheses, square it, equals 3.46 times 10 to the 22. Exactly where we need to be. Okay. And over on the other slide, it's very similar to how we did the last two TIs, in that we need parentheses around the numerator, so 3.5 minus 3.6. Then divide by one set of parentheses 0.5 times, second set of parentheses 3.5 plus 3.6, close parentheses, it equals, and multiply by 100, and we get 2.82. Okay. One more calculator. This one's going to be virtually identical to the last one, so I'm just going to point out the features and not actually input the numbers. I hope that's okay. You can see up here there's a button DRG. That's going to move you between degrees, radians, and gradients. I do see the EXP button again right there. So I could enter everything like I did on the previous calculator with the EXP button. And that is all 5 calculators that I have to show you.